All right, spring yard update. Everybody's been hammering me, where's the update? Where's the update? So let's finally get one done. Sorry for the delay. This was a weird winter. We didn't go that cold here in Clarksville, Tennessee. We're now zone 7B after the change. I'll always say that we're 7A. We still get winters. It seems like it's always been like the average is 7A for me. Of course, the numbers don't lie, and the real, the average is like 7B now, whatever. 7B, I think of like you can have unprotected windmill palms. You're on the verge of really having like tall, unprotected palmettos in like sheltered, spot. That's not the case here. All right, I'll try and keep the rambling short. Let's get to some plants. Like I said, this was a weird winter. So this is Dazzlerian Leophyllum. Never had any damage before. It's seen -4 Fahrenheit its first winter, unprotected. I forgot to cover it, and it didn't have a spotted damage on it. That same winter, we were like below freezing for 9 days straight, a bunch of days in the single digits as highs, and I think -4 was the like ultimate low, but we were like -1 the next night, and then like 1 degree for the high the next day. So that like tracks for a lot of these same plants. So I won't like keep repeating that. I might reference back to it. But a lot of these were in the ground the same time. But this had no damage then. And this just recently happened. It looked green a few weeks ago, and now the center pulled, and it looks like more leaves keep drying up. Hopefully it'll push back new growth, but we'll see. But this is like unheard of for a lot of the plants that have never been damaged here by cold. Really bad for the agaves and maybe just desert plants in general. We had a really dry summer and really dry fall leading up to winter. So it wasn't like we had like a surplus of water. Didn't seem like it was a super wet winter either. So I don't know. Really wacky, but you'll see some other horrific plant massacre stuff coming up soon, which I'm not really pleased about. A lot of yuccas did fine. I don't think I lost any yuccas. That's recurvifolia. It's getting bigger. That's green form of Yucca gloriosa. So this is like super typical that it's gonna take some leaf damage like that, which is really weird. I've talked to a few people about this, but the parents of gloriosa are allifolia and filamentosa. Filamentosa is super hardy, takes no damage, like way farther north of here. Allifolia I've also got in the ground now. Took no damage this winter. So both parents take no damage. But the hybrid offspring takes damage, which I thought that was just going to be the case with the hybrid form, the variegated form. But, it's also holding true with the green form there too, which is weird. That little guy there is Yucca shadii. It's got a little bit of leaf damage, but it lived, and it looks like it's going to do really good. Centered in pull, still solid. So that looks like it'll be a winner here. Those are really beautiful when they get big. Obviously Rostrata, no damage, no problem. Just to update on this one really quick for people who haven't really watched my other videos. This one I planted from a small seedling that I grew from seed. Is the same as the 3 bigger Rostratas I've got down the hill that I'll show. And This one I planted in pure clay. I didn't amend the soil that I planted in. Kind of wanted to do an experiment and see how it would go. And what it did is it really stunted the growth on this one, and it looked really bad for a bunch of years. And then I dug it up. When I built this bed up here, amended the soil, planted it up here. It got rooted in, and it's a lot healthier up here now, but it's still definitely the smallest of the 4 of them, which you'll see down here. The other ones are getting quite big. This is definitely one to grow. Hesperella parviflora. Yeah, it's got a little bit of browning on some of the leaves, but nothing crazy. But that's a really pretty one. Flowers really good. This is the red flowered, like, standard form. I've got a bigger one down the hill too. Sorry, the lighting's super bad. Yeah, you can see it a little bit better there. But there's like yellow flowered version, which is supposed to be a little bit less cold hardy. But still, I think it's like listed officially as like a zone 7 plant for the yellow leaf or yellow flowered one. The red flowered one is like zone 6, but you plant it in like a dry bed, it's probably pretty hardy. Let's see. So there's filamentosa. So that's one of the parents of the gloriosa. You can see they call it filamentosa because it's got a lot of filaments on it. But that's just a little ground yucca, but they're really cool. If you don't have one, get your hands on them. They spread like crazy. Can't kill them. Even if you dig them up, they'll come up from the roots. But really cool. They flower every single summer. Really cool flowers. Look pretty. There's a little small Gloriosa variegata that's been getting shaded out by all these other plants for a bunch of years. Maybe this year it'll gain a little bit of size and get bigger. There is Yucca rigida. This one does really good here. It flowered, this one and the one down the hill this last like fall, actually, which there's different flowering times for different species of yuccas. I think, don't quote me, I can't remember. I know like filamentosa goes really early summer. When gloriosa flowered, it went like middle of summer, late summer maybe, and then rigid I think went in the fall. But this one's got 2 different growing points on it now. The one down the hill I think has 3, so it'll split, grow some different heads, and branch off, look really cool. I thought this Cylindropuntia imbricata was gonna kick the bucket last year. It didn't look good. It's got this, like, even on like the stems that look good, it's got this like lighter green color versus the one down the hill is a really dark green. So yeah, and it looks like, you know, this one takes some damage where the one down the hill doesn't. So that's what it always is. Like I've mentioned this in my videos before a bunch of times, that there's even, you know, it's the same standard. This is an imbricata, the one down the hill is an imbricata. Depending on the location that it was grown, the natural habitat, the weather that it gets in its native habitat, there's just more cold hardy versions than others. Tony Avon at Plant Delights always says that you want to try to get the species, or you want to get the specimen to propagate from that is the farthest up the mountain, meaning like for desert plants, if it's up the mountain, the temperatures are going to be colder, it's going to get snow, more rain, so it's going to be like just a hardier in general specimen the further up the hill you go. So my point with that being is, if you kill a plant don't think that that is the end all be all. Definitely get a specimen from another source, and try again in a different spot in your yard, change some conditions, amend the soil different. Even if you got to throw some protection over it, so be it, but don't get your heart broke over killing a plant. I've killed hundreds and hundreds of plants by this point, and I still like experimenting. So the agaves, so I was saying this was a tough year for agaves. This is my biggest avatifolia. There's that one there, that one there. This one over here still took damage, but it took less than this one. This one here has never been damaged before like this. So you can see like this amount of damage on a newer leaf. That's the extent of damage that used to be on the older leaves like this after winter. These leaves got slaughtered. I really was like hesitant to even touch it in the middle, because I didn't want to grab it and it be really loose, because I would have to cry, because I really do love these. But they took a lot of damage, but they're gonna live, so that's really good. But I don't know, this sat here in -4, the same, all the crap that I said before, and literally had the most minor spotting, and you know, the leaf crotches in here full of snow, full of ice, heavy rain in the spring right after all the cold, no damage really, you know, minor stuff. And then this year it looks like this. So every winter's different. This was just a really weird one. I don't know why. So let's see some other stuff. I've got all these little dwarf opuntias planted all around. I had a really, well, I still have a giant patch. It's like covered with weeds right now, but I just started tucking in little pads everywhere. And that thing is pretty cool. There's Agave Tormeyana Bella. So that one's got some damage on the older leaves, but the middle looks good. Yeah, that's like a little small agave, but pretty cold hardy. Let's see, more of that dwarf opuntia up there. So tons of stuff tucked in here, hens and chicks, tons of little sedums. There's Agave Perii Kusii. That one lived. Pretty much all the other ones that I planted this last summer that were like this size, like smaller than a 1 gallon, I think I killed all of them. Like I've killed more agaves this past winter than ever before. So all that does is it just opens up new spots where I can plant more stuff. I think in one of my last videos I couldn't remember the name of this, but it is Yucca Harmony. So it's supposed to be a dwarf, just like Yucca Nana, and there's one other Yucca that's really small. I can't remember the name, but this is getting quite big, so I think it might flower this year, which is really cool because like the flower stalk will be like, you know, only a couple feet high off of the plant versus like a 9 or 10 feet high off of like another Yucca. Let's see what else we've got in here. That is Yucca Alifolia Magenta Magic. So it took a lot of damage to the older leaves, but the center stuff still looks good. That'll recover. There's sorry, the dang lighting. There's Yucca Faxoniana. That's a smaller one I've had for a few years. The older leaves took the most damage this year. Middle's good, it'll recover. There's a little Yucca Torii. That one looks like it took maybe the least damage out of the smaller ones, and which is supposed to be really cold hardy. They say like zone 5B maybe. in the desert as long as it's dry. The leaves have a really cool glaucous color on it, and it's supposed to trunk and get really big, be really nice garden plant. Let me get out of here and I'll show some more. There's a Agave havardiana. I planted that last year as like a bigger 5-gallon plant. It's looking kind of bad. I'll do a live pull the middle and see. I don't want to do this. Oh no, it's solid. Yeah, it'll recover. That's good, because we've been warm here now. I didn't want to pull the middle and it fall apart. I would have cried, I think, for that one too. Tons of weeds in here. It's kind of hard to see everything. I need to clean this up. Here's another agave that I killed. This was Agave Perii, giant grandkids from Plant Delights. So with these littler ones, I think I've come to the conclusion that I don't want to plant another agave that's smaller than a 1-gallon. I think I'm going to try to stick to that moving forward. I've had really small ones that have lived before for a bunch of years, and some that have grown, you know, to be a big, hardier size, but I lost a lot of little ones, so I would recommend moving forward for anybody that's gonna plant agaves, that's not used to planting them, that's new to planting desert plants. Even though sometimes the only available plant you can get is a really small one, I would grow it up in a pot for a few years before you plant it out. Or, you know, you invest a spot like this, you invest time, and then, you know, this is what you end up with. And now you've got an empty spot and you got to start all over again, which, you know, there's kind of trying to think of the right words. There's a point that I think you get to as a gardener where you have enough plants that survive that are really cool. Like, I've got big agaves like these that are really nice. So if I lose like a small dinky one, it doesn't hurt my feelings. But imagine if all you have is one or two and you lose both of them. It's like you lost all your momentum, you know, for the future. It's like you're starting over every year. So that can suck really bad. Another thing I would also advise, definitely dry cover all of your desert plants the first winter in the ground, no matter what, how cold hardy it's rated. Just put a plastic bin over it or a 5-gallon bucket during the worst winter or the worst weather of the winter, and then when it warms up, just take it off, and you'll be happy you did it in the springtime. So here's another one. I've talked about this before. Tons of people on forums don't plant Agave Utah-hensis. It's only cold hardy where it's dry. You can't keep it dry enough even if you cover it. And I haven't covered I covered this the first winter, and it's been in the ground. This was its 4th winter that it just went through, and now it has leaf damage, no doubt about it. But this looks like, I think this is just Utah-hensis, variation Utah-hensis. Took all the water. This was not covered, and it keeps living. So I would say for people in a cold climate, it is rated really cold hardy. A lot of people will warn you not to do it because of its susceptibility to damage from moisture. But I would say if you plant it in a really good draining bed, it's worth a shot. I've had good luck with them so far. Another dwarf puntia, really cool just to tuck in, because all these tucked around will all flower and they look really cool. So you can see this Avatifolia took less damage than the other one. They're both out in the open, like, you know, same sitting. It's just part of it. Let's see. All these are Sable Minor Wakula dwarfs. So these are really small for how old they are. They all flowered this last year. My buddy TN Tropics, which I think a lot of you probably subscribe to his channel. He lives down the road a little ways from me, but I visited him and he's visited me, and we do things a little bit differently. I like to tend to leave things unprotected as much as possible. But I've been taking his advice, and I took a lot of his advice on the palms this year. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second here. But I brought him up, namely now, because he's always said that not the super dwarfs, not the uber dwarfs like Brownstown dwarf, but the smallest Sable Minor size that you can get is the cold hardiest. And I just, in actuality, looking at them, seeing after winters, that's definitely true. So this is I would say this is a big dwarf for Sable Minors. Trying to see like Sable Minor McCurtain, which I have, it looked like this after 2 years in the ground from a strap leaf phase. And these were big 3 gallons when I planted them, and they've been in the ground for 6 years now. So that's what I mean when I say that it's a really small or a really big dwarf, because these are just small. But they don't take any damage. That's why I'm talking so much about them. Anybody that lives in a northern zone, this is what you want to plant to have some backbone, cold hardy palms that you're not going to have to worry about, and that aren't going to just up and die on you when you have a bad winter. Here's let me get out of the light. There's Yucca alifolia. So that's what I was talking about earlier. This has no damage, no tip damage, nothing, and it just sat here all winter long just like that. But it looks better than its hybrid child, which is, I don't know, it's bizarre to me. I'm gonna have to experiment a little more and plant some more and see what's going on. Another Wakula dwarf right there. That's a Sable Louisiana. That one's starting to get some size under it. Louisianas, I've definitely recommended to people that they should plant them. You can see just like the slightest tip damage, and even yeah, just the very slightest on the newest leaves. So we're 7B, 7A here. This is one that'll get really big. TN Tropics has a big one. I've got a bigger one down the hill, and that I recommend this is 6B for sure, 6A in a protected spot, and just see what they do. So here's one that I've talked about before. So that back there, that's Sable Brazoriensis. I've got other ones in the yard that took way less damage. This one's completely smoked. It got completely smoked last winter, the winter before, and this one. Even if it's gonna recover, it hasn't spear pulled yet, but even if it's gonna recover, I'm gonna yank this and plant something else there. It's a really desirable spot in that crotch. I'm still hee-hawing around about what I'm gonna put there. It's probably the best spot that I could put a windmill, and I've got a really nice Taylor form like in a 5-gallon deep pot, and that's probably exactly what needs to go right there. But I haven't decided yet. But that's definitely coming out because, like I said, if I can take this in a protected spot and it gets completely smoked, and I've got Brasorias in an open area down in the yard further that have way less damage, something's no good about this one's bloodline. And I'm not gonna keep investing time into that really good spot with one that doesn't want to live here. Let's see, we gotta get to a better vantage point. All right, so there is my biggest Trachycarpus wagnerianus. I protected this year, but I protected it very similar to what TN Tropics would advise. Wrapped it with mini Christmas lights, just 100 count. Then wrapped it with frost cloth, then wrapped it with plastic, and put a pot on top of that with no holes in the bottom. Like the pot is like equivalent, like a mini trash can basically. But I could take that off and vent it a little bit and look down in there and check on it. And so all the palms that I protected, I did exactly the same way, and I did it twice. So they all kept the string lights on them all winter. I just took those off 2 days ago, but I only wrapped them when we had our worst like bouts of winter, and then we had a warm spell in between, so I took all the wrapping off, and then we were due to get another one, so I wrapped them all back up. If you're prepared for it and you got the right materials, it's really not that bad, and it's worth doing because going into spring and summer, you've got all these green leaves, which is what TN Tropics also says. If you want to get good growth out of your plants or out of your palms, and so not only are they going to look good going into spring and summer, but you've got all these solar panels, which is exactly what they are, and this is going to help them build or grow more new leaves. Trust me, I have played the game where all the palms have defoliated and you're starting from 0 green, and they grow damn slow. And it's basically like end of August, September, even into October, they start looking okay again, and then, you know, the growing season's over. And that's the biggest trouble with this game of cold hardy palm planting is you know, they'll take damage and they'll recover, but how many years in a row are they going to take damage, slowly recover over the spring and summer, and then have another hard winter, defoliate, have to recover again? They just end up going into decline, and you can't build back the momentum ever for them to be healthy and grow good. So there's tons of stuff that I can grow here unprotected, but I wanted to have a really good growing season this year and kind of help some things out that weren't, you know, that have had a tough run for these past few years that we have had here. So I'll show another view of this from the front, but this is a sable palmetto, and this one's getting quite big now. So I'm a little up the hill of it, but this is probably about 6 feet tall, and we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 full green leaves on it, and it's already pushing out its 6 now. So this thing, I would be willing to bet, and I'll do a summer update and a fall one, I'd be willing to bet that puts out 8 leaves this year, and it's probably going to be around 10 feet tall when it's done, but we'll see. So that's it there, looking pretty. Is palmetto hardy for my house? No. But palmetto is what got me into growing palms. Not sable minor, not needle palm. Palmettos did, because when I was a kid and we would drive to Florida, that's what you start seeing when you get close to the beach. And that's what I always remembered and kind of just hooked in my mind was just the look of palmettos. And you go to anywhere that that they'll grow. Even now I go a lot to North Carolina to Gary's Nursery, go harass him, buy some palms, and then go head to the beach there. And it's super similar to like the panhandle of Florida, from North Carolina down, you know, South Carolina, Georgia. But what I always see and what always stands out is, yes, of course there's giant palmettos that all you get to do is look at the telephone pole trunk. But what there is everywhere is there's volunteers that are this size that come up by seed, and you get to face with them. And I just love them. I love the filaments on them. I love when the leaves blow in the wind. I think it's super tropical looking. And I really like them. So what I'm gonna do is always invest time and effort into trying to grow palmettos. And I've got a lot of really nice size ones that I've been selling in 1 gallons of Bald Head Island, North Carolina bloodline. And I've got a few picked out that I'm gonna keep for myself, and I'm gonna start really planting those instead of any other seed strain of palmetto, because they really are more cold hardy. Like I've referenced before, they've got it in their blood just to handle more northern weather than something that's more southern. Let's see if we can see it back there. That's my big sable minor McCurtain. That's getting a really good size now. This is the other thing about palms and really any plants in general that are evergreens. They're gonna get bigger and be healthier the less that they get damaged each year. So McCurtain takes no damage any winters, and it's just the biggest sable minor that I have because of that. So it retains all its leaves from the year before. The cold doesn't bother it. So it goes into spring super healthy, and it starts growing, and it's going to produce not more leaves than another palm, but it's going to produce the most leaves that it can each season, because it's not trying to recover from damage. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to pick palms to grow and plant at your house. Use your microclimates. Be smart about what you're planting. Plant as many sable minors and as many needle palms as you can, so that when your stuff gets rocked and you've got a brown palm like that Brazoriensis up there, you've got some other green stuff to look at and to start with, and those are what we call your backbone palms that aren't going to get hurt. All right, so right there is Yucca gloriosa variegata. That's the one that I was talking about versus the green form. Usually variegated forms are less cold hardy than green forms. This used to be as tall as the McCurtain. It had 3 heads on the main trunk, and when we got that -4, it just rotted. The trunk just turned to mush. The heads fell over, and it came back from the bases. Now, somebody that some people might know, McGuire Hoon, he subscribes here, and he's a friend of mine, and me and him talk a lot. He's in 5B. He planted same thing, Yucca gloriosa variegata. I can't remember where he got it from, but that thing took no damage, and I think he went to like -14 or something insane. So he's got a really good bloodline on his. and hopefully when he starts getting pups off of it, he'll pot them up and sell them for $100 because they don't take any damage, but we'll see. So here's the biggest of these Wakula dwarfs. This one's a little bit bigger than the other ones, still small, but they look really good. So most people remember this big Opuntia patch that I've got. I'm pretty sure that I've narrowed it down that it's a Lindermai. Here it's always super cold hardy. I really like it. I love desert plants. This is another evergreen. I love evergreens, and this flowers crazy yellow flowers I think it's like early June. But I had to hack the crap out of this in the fall because the problem that this did was it got scale really bad, and this started transferring scale to a bunch of my palms, which I cannot have. So I've had to treat all them, and I've been battling it, but I hacked off a bunch of stuff off of this, which I guess for one point is pretty good, because if I pull this bush back in here, you can see that all of this, where it's brown, that's not rotten, it's turning literally to wood. So if I was in a little bit of a warmer winter climate, like in Texas, this would just stay vertical, and this would be, by this point, probably a 10-foot tree. Whereas here, when we get really cold, this vertical stuff like this, it'll lean over in the wintertime. And then when you get like a really big arm, like this whole arm right here is kind of like a big central pad that's close to the base. And then all these in here are linked to that. So it just got too heavy because it's full of water. If you cut a big arm off, they're really heavy even in the summertime. And then in the winter, it just leans over, and it's just too much for it to come back from in the spring. So then it leans over like this, and then the new growth comes up vertically. But it's kind of how it spreads, makes a big patch of it. A lot of people don't like it. I really do like it. You can get even smaller padded versions that will go to zone 5, no problem. There's a video on YouTube, well, a few videos from this guy, but if you put Canada Opuntia garden or Canada cactus garden, this guy has got a crazy rock garden that he built, that's mainly all different flowering colors of Opuntia. It's really cool. Check it out if you like desert plants. Let's keep going. Let's go in here first. So that is my biggest Sable Louisiana. This is the first palm that I noticed had scale really bad on it, and I battled it all last year. This used to have like really dark green, like Christmas tree colored leaves on it, and just battling the scale. You know, scales, it sucks the juice out of a lot of leaves. It didn't, I don't even like to say the word decline, but it had a tough year last year battling it. I kept spraying it with horticultural oil, with insecticidal soap, trying to go the like least chemically invasive route that I could, and then eventually I just had to give in, and it's what all the experts use. They use Safari, and you mix it in a pump sprayer, and it will knock out scale. But I ended up having to get that and treat a bunch of stuff, because what I didn't want it to do is spread, you know, everywhere, and especially like right now, new growth starts coming out in the spring, and the whole spear's just rotten, which I'll show you what did happen on another palm. But it's building up a base on it. I've showed this before. A lot of the old leaf bases, they'll get loose after a little bit and break off. But this thing's getting big. Hopefully it'll get as big as TN Tropics soon, and it'll force him to come down and see some of my stuff again. So here is my biggest Sable Birmingham. This one I protected also this winter because it kept getting rocked. It got beat up bad last winter, and then the winter before that defoliated, and then I think the winter before that was down to like just the middle was green, and I think maybe just the petioles were green, or all the leaves were gone. So this has really gotten set back. It should be a lot bigger than this now. But now going into summer, we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half green leaves. This doesn't put out like a palmetto will, but I'll say it'll put out 4.5 to 5 leaves this year. We'll see though. My phone's about to die, so I'm gonna hurry up and finish this thing off. I might have to do a part 2. Here's big needle palm. This is what you guys need to get planted. No matter where I don't care if you live even further south than me, plant a needle palm, because this is from a 1 gallon. Now it's like 8 feet tall to the tips up there, and it's 12 feet wide, and it's just massive. This is in full sun, so the browning on the tips that you'll see is not from cold. It's actually from just being in full sun and just baking next to my driveway. And I have been bad about watering it, but you can see it under there. It's spilling under the deck now. So this is a huge statement palm that you can plant. People have luck with them in zone 6. People protect them, and I've seen them defoliate and come back in zone 5. But you know, just like anything, if you're in a really cold zone, plant it close to your house, and you'll get some protection. Plant it on the south side of your house, and you'll get some protection. But even if you're in Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, plant a dang needle palm. They're cool, and they're a native plant for your area. You should have them. Here's Yucca triculiana. That one's been in the ground a couple winters. Took a little damage. Looks fine. It'll come back. Hopefully it'll grow big. Again, people have like a love-hate thing with cactuses. This is the darker green stemmed Cylindropuntia imbricata that I was talking about. This one's really nice. It's a boy, obviously, as you can see. But you know, these are a cool plant that you can grow that are super cold hardy. People have luck with them to zone 5, no problem. So this is another like a dry bed. I got a lot of weeds in here, but there's like a little Agave Tormianabella that lived. I've got a lot of Echinacerius in here. There's 1, 2, 3. Killed an Agave Utahensis there, a little one. Killed a Ferocactus with Sleznii right there. There's Agave, can't remember the hybrid name, but it's a Neo-Mexicana by Utahensis. Oh yeah, Deep Blue, that's what it's called. This thing's putting off a bunch of little pups. There's one there. Where is it? In the camera. Oh, there's another one there. Another Echinacerius. That one's black lace. That one has the prettiest cactus flowers I've seen. There's Agave Utahensis. I bought it as Iborispina, the really long spined one, but I think it's a Nevadiensis, which still has long spines, but it's a little bit different form. Here's the 3 big Yucca rostratas. So like I said before, up the hill, that one up the hill is the same age as these, clearly stunted. These are getting really big. So what these do is they weep a lot of this old growth in the springtime like this, and then I usually cut them up to like about here, remove that old foliage, because as the sun is changing the angle and the sun gets right overhead, that blocks a lot of light from coming down onto this bed. So whatever, some people leave them shaggy, some people trim them. It's just personal choice, but it doesn't affect the growth on them. Trunk super rock hardy, solid. I think even if you skinned it down to where there was like really no leaf protection, it would still be hardy. Let's keep moving. Hopefully my phone doesn't die. I built this bed, I've said in other videos, just to grow sable palmettos in. So here is these 2 sable palmettos that I planted. I don't know, this is their 3rd or 4th. I can't remember how many winters, 3 or 4. But I protected these this winter so that they can be in this state. So this is like the state that they would be in like South Carolina, Georgia, even North Carolina near the coast, where they have green leaves. They look really good going into spring, summer, and they're gonna grow a lot. So again, I lost a lot of agaves. That, damn it. What was that? I can't remember. I'll think about it in a second. But it was a big one, and it got smoked dead to the ground, and it was in a protected spot. I think I'm gonna put damn it, cycad, a revoluta there. I've already got one in the greenhouse, and then I'm gonna put it there and protect it. Keep moving. There's a little yucca that's silver anniversary. It's like Pallida by something else. Really cool looking. I try to plant as many yuccas as I can. There's a little weepy sable palmetto. I protected that one. There's sable mexicana. I protected that one. There's little double sable minor, little tiny sable minor. These are North Carolina variants. There is sable riverside. It got smoked like this last winter, and it did this winter. Not gonna mess around with trying to replant it. It's just not hardy for here. Here's another little desert bed. Yucca alata, that one split, so I got 2 heads. Should get kind of big this year. There's Opuntia Dark Night. Can't really see how purple it is because of the light, but it's really cool. Cylindropuntia imbricata, but giant form. That one's supposed to have like be like twice the height as the other one over there. Another that's like a hybrid Cylindropuntia, like Kleini by Lepticalis. I think there's just a pure Lepticalis. That's Agave Montana. There's one there and one in this other bed over there. I'll see if I can get over to it before the phone dies. I'm never gonna plant one of those again. That's like the 4th one that I've killed. I really like them. It's like one of my favorite agaves, but it's not gonna live. So here's Agave brazoriensis. So this one's about the size as the one up the hill. This leaf took like maybe 75% damage, but then it's got 3 leaves that are completely green. And this is out in the open. There's Sable Minor, North Carolina. Here's a bigger Sable brazoriensis. It was big in the pot. This was a 15-gallon. So you can see it's got a base built up on it. This had scale really, really bad. So like in the spear, it's just like eaten away. But this got treated as well. But this one doesn't have as much damage as the one up the hill. So I think it grows out of this year. It should have a fighting shot, especially being as big as it is. That one is just another North Carolina. Here's Sable Birmingham, completely smoked. other than some green on the spear. Probably gonna yank that one. Another Sable Minor, North Carolina. This one I bought as Sable Black Burniana from Plant Delights. So I know a few other people that that have these as well, and we're kind of all keeping notes on each other and seeing how they do. But you can see Brazoriensis is supposed to be really cold hardy, and they are. But here's Black Burniana with basically no damage. You know, minor tip damage after the winter on the older stuff. So I don't know, I'll keep track of it, and it'll take some time to tell what it really is when it gets older. Sable Minor McCurtain, little one. Another Sable Birmingham. This one just showed a lot more damage recently. Like this leaf was all green, this leaf was all green. It does have more green on this leaf in the middle. See, yeah, it still feels solid, so it'll grow out of it. But I don't know what's going on with Birminghams lately. Somebody that I'm friends with on Facebook said that he just thinks they're really variable, and you got to just keep planting them until you get a hardy one. And I think that is true, because the one up the hill, on a good winter, it won't take much damage. For 8 or 9 years, I never protected that thing. Here's my second biggest needle palm. This one's more of the solitary version. The other big one up there has got probably 40 different trunks on it. This one's got 2 main trunks, and each of those now have 3 small trunks off of them. But still cool. What is that? Yeah, flowering peach, like a patio peach tree. If you like small trees that flower and have cool foliage, get that one. It's really cool. What is this? Another North Carolina Sable Minor. And then this is Sable Brazoriensis also. So this one and the one on the end up there look about the same. You know, this is old leaf, no problem. There's like a 50% damaged leaf, but then it's got basically the leaf that just came out in the fall, no damage. The leaf before that one, maybe it took 10% damage, and then you know, it's pushing a spear out. So just try different forms from different areas, and see what they do for you, and sometimes you get lucky. This is Sable Minor, damn it, what's it called? Emerald Isle Giant. So I've noticed on a lot of North Carolina ones that they do take more damage than Florida ones, which is weird. It's kind of backwards, because a palmetto that's from North Carolina takes less damage than a Florida one, but a North Carolina Sable Minor takes more damage than a Florida one, which is like, I don't know, it's backwards. So I'm gonna have to keep experimenting with that. So here's the Agave slaughter. In like the interim of building all the greenhouse walls down here, I had a bunch of rocks that I just dry stacked, and this was supposed to be my like agave bed up here, and I put a Proto Americana right there, and it was so gorgeous and looked great. Oh, and I'm seeing something really cool here, but that thing just melted the first cold spell we got. And then what went next? In the corner was a Agave Desert Eye, and then next went this high form of Agave Montana from like 9,000 feet. Still got smoked, so like I said, never doing Montanas again. And then fourth in this bed went an Avatifolia. That was supposed to be from a high region also, smoked. And then just recently When this was a Neo Mexicana by Havardiana, so this should have been a super cold hardy hybrid. Still turned to mush, still pulled. So this was a crapshoot for this bed. But I'll give you guys a sneak peek and I'll run down the hill really quick. I'm gonna do a greenhouse tour later on, but I'll show you guys what I'm gonna plant in the middle of this bed now. And hopefully all of you will be really jealous and cuss me in your dreams. But look at what is under the leaves right there. There is a pup coming up of that Proto-Americana. So I'm gonna pull that and I'll pot it up, and I can at least look at it in a pot, maybe sell it. So here's a big Wacula dwarf, same as up the hill. I planted this as a 7-gallon 5 years ago. So this is a really old plant, and it's just not that big. Like, I think I measured it before to the top of the leaves, and it was like a little over the uber dwarf limit. Like, I think the uber dwarf limit's like 18 to 24 inches, they say, and this one was like 28 inches or something like that. So it's really small minor, but really pretty. Here's another Louisiana. There's the other rigida, Yucca rigida that I was saying. That one's got 3 or 4 growth points on it, and it's a little bit ahead of the one up the hill. That is Yucca Faxoniana by Rostrata hybrid. I wanted it to do really good. It's kind of been sluggish, hasn't grown good, but you know, it's still there chugging along. North Carolina Sable Minor, planted this last year. So this is what I'm saying with the damage. Like, this is an old leaf, so old leaf, you know, big deal. This is a little bit of younger leaf, still some spotting. Same thing, younger leaf, still some spotting. Newer leaves, no damage really, but in my experience, North Carolina Sable Minors do take some damage from cold. There's my biggest Yucca Faxoniana, planted this last year. The older leaves were already looking kind of like that, but definitely, you know, took a little bit of a hit from winter, but all the center stuff looks really great. Hoping that'll trunk in the next 10 years and I won't have to have a wheelchair to wheel out and see it, you know, be big. There's another Rostrata. Here's Yucca Gloriosa Variegata that doesn't really take much damage. There's Apuntia linguiformis. That one's been pretty hardy. I'm gonna start cultivating those and selling them. Let me run down the hill. My phone is literally just like, hey dummy, I'm on 5%. So let me run down here. I'm not gonna do a greenhouse tour, but I'll show you what I'm gonna plant in that spot. Moved a bunch of Sable Minors out here already for the summer. Look at that dog of a Sable Minor. I think this thing is close to 30 years old. Look at that trunk on that thing. That's not just old leaf bases, that is like solid wood. And this thing is just a beast. Gary at Gary's Nursery dug this up. I think the story was a lady just didn't want them in their yard or in her yard anymore. They were getting too big. I think he dug up like 12 or 13 of them. This was the last one, and I had to trade him basically a trunk load of palms that I've grown that he didn't have, to pry it away from him, and he still didn't want to see it go. But that's in a 15-gallon pot. It's completely roots. There's no dirt in that pot, and that's going to go and be the centerpiece of that bed up there. So if you watch that video of the trunking minors that I showed at Gary's Nursery, the petioles are crazy. They're like 6 feet long by themselves. These ones are really short. So I think just being dug up and being in a pot, it really dwarfed this thing. So hopefully in another 5 years after being in the ground, hopefully it'll, you know, be up this height and and match the ones that he's got. So I'll do a little sneak peek in here. There's the wood stove that really kept everything alive in the greenhouse over the winter. And here's a bunch of palms and other stuff that you can see. A little teaser for everybody, and I'll come back and do an update soon. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys, and have a good spring and summer growing.